We are
Obviously.
professionals.
This is a professional podcast.
Yes.
Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. Hello there. Which actually,
Did you
this
get
is gonna
me a
be
hat
a
as
bit,
well?
Dune
yeah,
in 4K.
yes.
So I've got Dunecam. It's just a camera.
Welcome back to the Quiet On Set podcast powered by Cineman. My name is Ewan and I'm joined by Lachlan, and we are here to redo an older episode of the show.
That's right. Over the next 30 minutes, Ewan and I will be discussing our top 4 favorite Letterboxd films. That's the 4 movies that's on your Letterboxd page that you would consider your favorites. And it's also something we might, I guess, update yearly on. Like, when did we do the original episode?
It was episode 10, so we started
wow,
this
okay.
back in January, so it must have been sometime in March or April probably. But yeah,
This is
in 2020.
20, yeah.
It's been a
I was
while.
going to say, we haven't done 100 episodes since January, dude. That's a lot of episodes to do in like 6
That
months.
would have been crazy, no.
Just a little fun episode where we just get to talk about what we consider our current favorite movies.
Yeah, there might be some overlap. I know that one of your 2 films that we got there, because we had 4 hosts on at that time. So, you're still getting the same amount of movies covered as in that show, but I guess
Yep.
now distributed between 2 people. I know there's a repeat for you for that show, but for me, those 2 films have kind of shuffled out of my top 4 rotation. And I think this show is also going to be a testament to your ongoing thing of portraying me as this person who hates all movies that are not art house, who doesn't watch any Marvel things and just hates them and just basically wants to be sad. And I think this is not going to end well for me, because I think I definitely hammer home that point.
You see A24 and you go, yes, I want to go watch that movie.
What?
You see
Who doesn't?
Marvel
Who
Studios
doesn't?
and you're immediately walking out of the cinema asking for a refund and speaking to the manager.
I am the film bro Karen in a sense. But no, I think without further ado, let's just jump into your first pick.
My first pick, and again, Letterboxd film favorites in no particular order.
Yeah, of
So,
course.
It doesn't matter what order it's in. These are just your 4 favorite. I think as film critics, as professional film reviewers, Ewan, it's hard to say that you have a favorite movie of all time, because
Yeah,
it
agreed.
can fluctuate. Movies are an emotional roller coaster. They're also not sometimes. If you're watching, I was going to say Morbius, but I realized that Morbius is an emotional roller coaster. But it's hard to say that you have a definite favorite movie of all time. And
Mhm.
I think as someone who says, oh yeah, I watch movies, I studied film, or I want to be in the film industry, everyone goes, oh, what's your favorite movie of all time? Then it's like, that's a fucking hard question, right?
Yeah,
Ewan's is
yeah.
obviously Citizen Kane as an art house cinema nerd himself.
No, it's not.
But these are in no particular order.
Great
So,
film though. I can't.
Great film though. Great.
It's
Even I
a
agree to
great
that
film.
one. Okay, so number 1, it's a relatively recent movie. Funnily enough, it's not the oldest movie that's on my top 4, but
Yeah.
this is from 2017, and it is the Denis Villeneuve Blade Runner 2049. Ewan, you've seen this movie, right?
I have. We've also covered this film on the show before. If you go really
Yes.
back in episode 33, we did roll that again on the first Blade Runner and then this one, and did like an extensive talk about the whole thing. We both love Blade Runner. I think that's
Yeah.
no secret.
The original?
The original and the new one. I think we both prefer the new one over the original, but I hold the original to a very high standard as well.
Oh, 100%. To understand where my background is with Blade Runner, I found the Alien movies and I fell in love with Ridley Scott's vision.
Mhm.
And I just went down the rabbit hole of watching his movies, and I came across Blade Runner. And that was like, I remember it was probably 2014 that I watched the original Blade Runner. I
Yeah.
was in high school and I had no access to money, so I learnt what torrenting was, and I streamed
What?
it. So I streamed
What's
a
that?
really low resolution version of Blade Runner, and it wasn't until I got a 4K of it that I was like, this is fucking insane. Anyway,
The Steelbook arc had started. Yeah.
a couple years later, when they announced that they're doing a sequel, I was like, hell yeah. So
Yeah.
when it came out, it was one of those movies that I was able to go see in cinema, and
Mm.
I was like, wow, this is an awesome cinematic masterpiece, and it was also my
Yeah.
introduction to another great director, Denis Villeneuve. So I
Mm-hmm.
found that, as we know on this podcast, we're a very visually biased group of
Yeah,
people that as soon as
that's true.
something just looks visually stunning, we've all just said, yeah, 10 out of 10, 5 out of 5, whatever you want to rate it at. We will max that shit out. So for me, it was a excellent sci-fi film. It had a wicked visual palette on it in terms of use of color, in terms of the use, obviously cinematography as well. I also think it was the
Mm-hmm.
film that introduced me to Roger Deakins as well, and I went down the
Right.
Roger Deakins rabbit hole. So I went
Yeah.
down all of these rabbit holes with these directors, and I found these really awesome movies. But for me, I would always say that Blade Runner 2049 is the best sequel to a film that they tried to revamp. I will always
Mm-hmm.
stand by that. There are better sequels out there, I will say that there was a success of the first movie and then a couple years later they release it, but we're talking 20 years almost between the original and the sequel. So it was wicked to have, again, possibly what I consider like my favorite sequel to a film, to
Yeah.
be inspired by the cinematography, the incredible use of CGI models. It was one of those movies as their world that I just went straight into how did they make this. So I found the excellent performances from Ryan Gosling, Ana de Armas, Jared Leto, of all people. It's like, ooh, Jared Leto's performances can be hit or miss, but I still liked
Yeah.
it. And an awesome reintroduction of a character with Deckard coming back, played by Harrison Ford in the original Blade
Mm-hmm.
Runner. Again, it was like he doesn't come into the movie until about halfway through, and it's a wicked reintroduction of the character. So,
Yeah.
have you seen Blade Runner 2049? I've already asked you that. Sorry.
Yeah, no. I mean, I do have. I think I have something that I never told you about my first Blade Runner 2049 experience. I've always had like kind of the DVD sitting around. I think I bought it at a flea market when I was quite young because I knew my parents or my mom always kind of talked about it, that being one of her favorite films.
Yeah.
But I never got to watch it, and then I only ever watched it right before the new film came out, like sometime in 2017. I was a big fan of it. I kind of put it off as like a chore before it switched kind of, and now like the bigger films become more of a chore and the art house stuff is more of a treat. But I went to a midnight screening because there's not a lot of showings in Switzerland, or I went to Germany to go see it, where you could just see a film not dubbed, just subbed in the original language. And this was a midnight premiere for that film in English. So I had to go, but I had a really long day that day. And the first time I
Gotcha.
saw 2049, I fell asleep watching it about like halfway in and then woke up towards the end.
Look,
And
I don't
I
blame
yeah.
you, mainly due to the fact that there are definitely different moods you have to be in to watch certain movies. Like, I'm not going to go
Mhm.
watch a depressing film when I'm super sad, right? That's just, I'm going to go watch a feel happy
Yeah.
movie like Marley and Me,
Mhm.
because that's so happy. Uh, um, so like if you're super tired, like it's a 3-hour film, and it definitely
Yeah.
can drag for people who aren't super engaged with it. Like I've watched this movie with the sound off at my mate's house before, but also thought I'd just show this off. 4K ultra.
You do have the 4K version. Don't you also have
4K
something on the wall that is every frame from Blade Runner? Is
Oh
that...
yeah, I do actually. Hang on. One
Yeah,
second.
yeah. Show that to the people.
My girlfriend got this for me for my birthday. An artist that does it. Pretty dope.
Yeah, incredible present.
Every frame. I've got this and 2001: A Space Odyssey. Those are the two that
Mm.
I've got. It's every frame in like an iris. It's pretty dope.
It's a
Anyway,
great aesthetic.
I gotta put this back on the wall now. It's quite embarrassing.
Well, I guess I'll get into my first favorite, which is already kind of cheating because it's not just one film, it's a whole trilogy and it kind of cycles in and out of it. So I'll just
Wait, what? We're
pick...
doing trilogies as well?
No, well, no. I'm picking one for them, okay? Because I there's an argument like why that's currently my favorite. But I'm talking about my favorite trilogy, and that is the Before trilogy from Richard Linklater. Which if you haven't seen it yet, I kind of don't want to say the whole premise of where the whole trilogy goes. So if you haven't seen it, pause this, go see it. It's really worth your time. And spoilers, I guess, for all the movies we kind of talk about here. Some of the more obscure ones I can talk a bit more loosely about, so I'm not ruining anyone's experience. But before sunrise, before sunset, and before midnight hold a really special place in my heart, because it's kind of my go-to comfort film. I could just pop them on whenever with whomever, and I'll have a good time. We'll have some good conversations, and I think it also nails that thing of having, obviously, like all the rom-coms have an aspect of idealizing a partner, but I think this movie also tackles that idealization and how fleeting like encounters can be sometimes, or how devastating they can be if they last, that it's not all that great. And that whole trilogy, I think, encapsulates that so well, and I connected with it at the time in my life that I could never kind of let loose of it. It's also beautifully shot. It's set, the first one in Vienna, the second one in Paris, and the third one on the Greece countryside. Yeah, what else can I say? It's my favorite trilogy of all time. Yeah, currently I'd probably say the first one is my favorite, because it kind of always goes like this whenever I start the trilogy. The one that I'm ending on is my favorite at that moment, and I haven't finished the rest of the trilogy. I'm currently stuck on Before Sunrise. So it's like always in a stage. It's always like you said, like movies are very emotional and they change all the time. That's a perfect example here. It literally changes depending on which one I've seen, I guess, the latest.
As I said beforehand, movies are such a hard thing to say what's your favorite, because it's an
Yeah.
emotional attachment that you have. Like, you watched a certain movie when something was happening in your life, and you immediately associate that movie with something. Like, I didn't win the lottery, and then I went and saw Morbius, so I can't watch Morbius now because I associate it with not winning.
Yeah, I guess in the same vein from that Sonyverse, I think a movie that's similar to me and that way is Venom, the first Venom movie
Venom!
that we have an attachment to.
We got drunk together and went and watched Venom at the cinema.
Yeah, and
Dope.
then we did it again in a drunk cast that is now publicly available for Venom Let There Be Carnage. We'll talk a bit more about like that, I guess, in that show.
The
So
plug.
yeah, go check that out. We won't go into it any further than that, but that's like a connection that I have with Lachlan through that film, and now that film is like more important, outweighed like more than for other people. It's just a slugfest, and a Tom Hardy eating lobsters, I guess. But for us, it's a bit more than that. So yeah, it's very subjective. Yeah, you've seen the Before films, right? Was that something? If you haven't, I definitely need to sit you down and we can. I was about to say we can cuddle up, but
Man, I don't
snuggle
know how
up and
to
watch it together.
tell you this.
Not again.
But
none of my films on my list.
have not seen the Before trilogy.
Yeah.
Funnily enough, the only Richard Linklater film that I've seen is School of Rock. Oh, and Boyhood.
I'm a big fan of Linklater, although recently I haven't really connected with one of his like new films like as deeply as with maybe Boyhood or the Before trilogy. But another side note here, these films are all filmed with 9 years apart, from 1995, 2004, 2013. Notice a pattern? It's 2022.
Another one.
It's perfectly ended in the last film, where we don't really need a new one, but it's also the kind of the spirit of this whole thing, that like the continuation, that there's enough depth there to go further. So I think it wouldn't like besmudge the legacy of this, but I like to say that I have a favorite trilogy, and it's the Before trilogy. So I wouldn't mind if they cap it here. Let's move on to your next favorite.
To my number 2. 2017 was my last one, and there's
Mhm.
movies on here on my top 4 that are newer than 2017. This is one of them. I watched this one this year. It's called After Yang. It's directed by Kogonada, which is like Beyonce. It's just Kogonada. That's all it is. It's just a one-name director,
Right.
so you know it's going to be good. So there's another movie that's on here, and I think I should do that one first before I do After Yang, because it's an easier way to explain After Yang. So I'm going to switch this. I'm actually going to do Drive first. I'm going to do Drive first. So Drive, I'm going to do this one before I do After Yang, because it's easier to explain.
Yeah.
Drive is from 2011. It is a Nicholas Winding Refn film. Nicholas Winding Refn? Refn, I think that's that. He is the director, and it stars Ryan Gosling. It's basically like the film that everyone goes, oh, that's the Ryan Gosling film, before the Barbie film comes out, obviously, because everyone's then going to associate him in the Barbie film as Ken. So the other reason I'm going to do this one first is that out of the 4 films that I did the top 10 or the top favorite films last time with, this and Blade Runner were both on there, I believe.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, both on your top 4.
it's also got Ryan Gosling in it. Like, I also had Ryan Gosling in 2049. So I should get rid of all of the Ryan Gosling movies first before we move on, because I'm kind of biased towards it. Ryan Gosling is
You're gonna
literally
love
my-
Barbie.
Man, I'm so keen for Barbie. So
Yeah, me too. It looks dope.
Ryan, I almost just called Ryan Gosling's Drive, and I realized it's not Ryan Gosling. It's like Tim Burton's The Nightmare Before Christmas. So Drive, for me, is the movie that pretty much got me wanting to do films. So I remember in like 2013 when I was in like high school, same as like the original Blade, because I was going on that binge of just movies I wanted to watch, because I got into this thing where I wanted to watch movies all of a sudden when I was in high school. I found Drive, and I heard about Drive, but I didn't know anything about it. And that's the best thing about Drive. If you don't know anything about it and you watch it, it is one of the best cinematic experiences ever.
Yeah.
I watched it, and I just basically went, I want to make movies. So pretty much, that's when I went on the binge of watching more movies, discovering the movies that I liked, and this was one of those ones. So the incredible use of the neon color, which something I learnt that the director is colorblind, so having color is like really cool to have from a colorblind director. Killer story, killer soundtrack, awesome car, which, you know, a young teenage boy car movies are the fucking best. As I said, killer soundtrack. I wanted to note that I will drive home late at night, and I have like a driving playlist, and it's like 400 songs long, and this song, A Real Hero, will come on, and I will just wind down the window. I said Ryan down the window. Wind down the window. I got Ryan on my mouth, bro. I will wind down the window, and I will just, when I had hair, breeze in the hair, you know, late night, lights just coming over the car. Real human being. I'm just like, oh. So for me, it basically just made me love what a film can do, because you're watching this film and then it's a love story, and then all of a sudden it's something else. So for me, I'm a sucker for love stories like that. Then it just twists and changes, and it just becomes this wicked story. And it wasn't until years later that I realized that it was Oscar Isaac in that film, because I watched Ex Machina,
early role
and
from
I was
him.
like, I know this dude. And then I just couldn't picture him with the beard. And then I remember I rewatched Drive, and I was like, it's him in Ex Machina. So for me, Drive was one of those moments where, one of those films that just made me go, yes, I love what they can do. I want to just do everything about movies, and that's what made me fall in love with cinema.
Nah, it started
That's
your drive.
Started my drive. Gave me a drive.
It started your drive. Yeah, I kicked out my movie that had Drive in the title last time. My
Drive My Car.
2 films. No, that would have been too recent. That movie wasn't even out yet. I had Baby Driver in here as kind of my comfort movie that I can like say I definitely like rated higher than the quality of the film itself. But again, it doesn't really matter. It's just really like the quintessential movie experience for me. I love
Which
those
is really
needle
difficult
drops and
for
like
you
all
to
the
do.
What
To put
slander
the
to-
quality of the entertainment
No.
above the
Oh my God, the
the
experience.
artistic value.
Oh my
Yeah.
God. You make me sound like, okay, I was about to say you make me sound like someone who has like spreadsheets about all of this stuff, which I literally have. So I'm digging my own hole here, but no. I love Baby Driver still. It's kind of become my thing. It's not one of my top 4 picks right now, but just I guess an honorable discharge out of my top 4 for Baby Driver. I watch it pretty much yearly, usually on my birthday, as kind of like reoccurring thing. The other film I talked about in 2020 when we last did this favorites list was Schindler's List, which was my pick for, I guess, the sad war film that kind of has to be in here. honorable mentions
Wait, there has to be a
go
war film?
to.
Oh, shit.
There has to be a war film in my
I didn't
list.
realize there
I
had to be a
think
war film.
no, because there's a lot of stories. If you go back in the show, I think we hint towards it or talk about it a bit. But there's a story with the script of Schindler's List.
It takes too long to describe that story.
It is a very long story, and essentially, I have always kind of enjoyed war films, but like not the ones that focus on the action, like yeah, that army stuff, but more on the dread and misery of it all. And I think my next pick is one that captures that dread better than any other film, I'd say. It's Cineman.ch from 1985, a Russian film about the invasion of Belarus in the 1940s by the Nazis, and kind of the misery that they've caused from the perspective of, I think, a 14-year-old child. I gotta say, it's probably the best child performance I've ever seen. I think I would definitely put him on the highest pedestal. His scene partner, the girl in the film, is equally as amazing. It grabs you the whole way through, and essentially does this very natural feeling escalation of the whole plot that you don't even notice when it's really unwinding and winding up. And then, like, sometimes, even though I've seen the film, it really hits me quick, although it's like setting up for something, but still it feels unexpected because it's so rough and so harsh that you kind of want to shield yourself from experiencing it. And when a movie can do that to me, especially when it can like emotionally engage me like that deeply, it's definitely gonna be one of my favorites, because I kind of like to experience that misery along, not just to be like miserable, in a way that like captures it for the rest of time to not be forgotten. So it's like also a historic film in a sense. I don't think the movie needs a lot of praise. I think it leads more people to see it, but it's currently on Letterboxd, the second highest rated film of all time. So I guess I'm not alone with my love for the film. In the same vein, I think Studio Ghibli film is also a war film set in Japan. Grave of the Fireflies would kind of be the interchangeable thing here, where we'll kind of swap it for that one.
I'm going to move on to After Yang. Kogenaga,
Mhm.
we already said this, Beyonce joke. Stars Colin Farrell and Jodie Turner-Smith. And the reason I've done this, I put this third, is it was the same feeling I got watching this as when I watched Drive.
Mm.
So that's why I've said I want to do this second, because this only came out last year and I only saw it this year. I got the same feeling that I had when I watched Drive with this. I don't know what it was. Again, I like sci-fi. I really do think you can get some really cool thoughts with sci-fi, at least thought-provoking ideas
Yeah.
with sci-fi, especially with the use of artificial intelligence, what is considered life, and that's a really cool concept in on itself. But to then consider the memories of their family's little AI, it becomes this really massive, large scale idea on a
Yeah.
really small scale. So
Oh yeah.
I love sci-fi. I know this film only came out this year, but it was just something that I just fell in love and connected with instantly. So again, there's a chance that next week this won't be on my top 4. It could leave. My honeymoon phase
Yeah.
of this film could literally end, since I've only seen it recently, and
What comes
I did
after
watch it a
Yang?
second time.
Yeah.
We don't know what comes after Yang. So for me, it's going to stay on my top 4. And I'm gonna talk about it on here today, because I found the whole presentation of the film to be quite well executed. So I've never seen a Kogenaga film. You've seen a Kogenaga film before,
Columbus.
correct?
Yeah.
Columbus.
And after
And-
after that, I kind of went on a binge to watch all of his video essays, because he comes from, I think, a journalistic or academic
Yep.
point for film. So it's super interesting. He also did like a montage for the Before trilogy. So like I immediately fell in love with that man. I've seen a bit of his stuff, and it's equally as good everywhere. I think this is only his second or third feature. Like you, I'm super keen for the next thing, and this was also one of my favorite films of this year so far.
That was After Yang, and again, I want to go on another one of those rabbit hole binges of Kogenaga's filmography.
Let's move on to a film from not this year, but from Uh 70 years ago, from 1952. It's
Man, you're really not
Ikiru.
helping out your case here, are
I
you?
am not. This is terrible.
Jeez.
Yeah, I'm a movie snob, I guess. But these are great films that not a lot of people see. So, this is my favorite Akira Kurosawa film. It's Ikiru, which translates to live. This is really what that movie essentially captures. It's about a worker's life. Towards the end of his life, he starts to realize what his life has meant, or how he has spent his time. Has he wasted it? Has it added up to anything of substance? And can he break free out of the chains that have kind of been put onto him by the structure that he lives in? Will it appreciate him for the person he was when he's gone? And it's kind of like big themes. I mean, if you name your movie To Live, then you better have something to show for. And it definitely has. There's this one image that is sometimes the movie poster for it, with him on the swing. Thinking about that makes me emotional and almost makes me tear up, because the movie comes to like a slow halt for a moment in that scene. It is so engaging, so emotional, and saying so much that yeah, I just love it. Go give it a try. It's also a very well shot film. All Kurosawa films are super well shot. Might be something for the Criterion subscribers. It's probably on the Criterion channel.
Last film.
Last film.
It came out this year. It's it's the Daniels. Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. Now, I want to say, out of the 4 films that I got to see, or got to talk about today, I only saw 2 of them in cinema, and this is one of them. The other 2, I watched them at home, either on a computer or more recently after Yang on my lovely state-of-the-art Dolby Atmos, Dolby Vision enabled TV and soundbar system. Not flexing.
Not sponsored.
No, I'm not sponsored by Dolby at all, but I just want to flex that I've got a Dolby TV and a Dolby soundbar.
Right.
Anyway, so Everything, Everywhere, All at Once was just one of those movies that I went to the cinema and I went, fuck yeah, this is a bit of everything. It's comedy done well, it's action done well, it's storytelling done well. It's got a layer after layer after layer after layer of depth and things that you could just pull apart. And also, you don't even need that. You can just watch the movie as it is, and it is a great movie no matter what. And that's what's good about certain films. Some of them have heaps of meaning that you can dissect. Some of them have heaps of meaning that you have to dissect. And some of them have heaps of meaning, but even if you don't want to worry about that, you can just watch the movie and it's sweet as. So Everything, Everywhere, All at Once is a movie by the Daniels. I think that a great way of explaining it is it's definitely an internet film, because the Daniels have done music videos, and very famously the Turn Down for What music video. They know what the internet is, and they must have grown up in the age of the internet. And for myself and for Ewan, I think the internet is just another part of us, and it's a great way of feeling that you've just got a lot of information thrown at you, and this is exactly what that is. It's basically just throwing a whole bunch of shit at you, and you just got to catch whatever you can. And I guess for me, the reason I liked it is I really want less internet in my life, and I guess that's one thing that this film really latched me onto. It's just so much, and I guess part of it is having everything on a fucking bagel, but it's for me it was just something. It was one of those films that just captured the moment and the essence of what I was feeling. Again, to get back onto the same thing we had a chat about earlier at the start, it's a moment in your life that a movie can hook onto, and that's exactly what this film was. It just feels like it came at the right time for anyone who's watching it, because it's blowing up right now. But Everything, Everywhere, All at Once just became this film that I fell in love with because it came to me at the right time. So yeah, I don't really have a lot of notes on Everything, Everywhere, All at Once, because it only came out recently, but it's one of those films that I haven't been able to go back and watch. So it's one of the only films on here that I've only watched once.
Single time.
Everything else I've seen twice. After Yang I saw twice, but everything else I've seen bazillions of times. It does come out on 4K DVD. It comes out in a week's time. There's nothing that's going to hold me back from buying that DVD. I'm totally buying that DVD.
No raccoon or sausage fingers are going to hold you back from ordering that
I might go buy
4K
sausage fingers
steelbook
so I can
as
buy
soon
it.
as you can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a steelbook, unfortunately, but I'm gonna hunt one
Oh,
down.
okay.
I'm gonna hunt down a steelbook for Everything Everywhere All at Once.
But, you're a big fan of those
I,
steelbooks.
well,
yeah.
I don't know, man. I've got a couple
No,
steelbooks here.
no.
No. You know, I've got a pile. So I haven't moved these discs for weeks. I don't know
Yeah.
when we've recorded the 100th episode, but I've just got a pile now, and I've just added another one, and these are not gonna leave. It basically just is gonna keep being stacked up and stacked up.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta be ready for Dune Cam at all times. You cannot not be ready. I mean, exactly. See,
Dune 4K steelbook.
Dune. But yeah, that's
Still-
that. I also really love Everything Everywhere All at Once. It's such a high energy film that like you said, there's no depth that you need for it. For me, I guess I always, if you've watched some of our reviews, you tend to notice that, like, even in our most recent one in 4, I try to search for the political meaning between, like, the benevolence of gods. Yeah, it might be a bit of a reach sometimes.
Jeez.
I do always search for those, and I guess I try to just enjoy movies by themselves. I don't know if that's the curse of a film critic, because you kind of want to say something of substance yourself, so you're searching for it in the medium that you're talking about. Otherwise, it's just kind of this empty blabber of nothing that you participate in. Maybe that's part of it, but no, I do like that. But I think a really simple movie is my next one, and that is and the final one for today, Portrait of a Lady on Fire. A little French film, really limited in the scope of the whole story, with a very small cast, just a couple of people, mainly on like an island, I think. And it's just about, I just noticed that I got 2 romance films in here. Well, I guess it's also more of a drama overall, and not just a pure romance. No, I can't. No, it's definitely a romance. I think it's also one of the most visually stunning films I've ever seen. The way it's shot, it also uses very minimal music. There's like no music, like no soundtrack, no score really in it for pretty much the whole runtime, other than like when they are actually like at the end in that orchestra, and they're just listening to it, like the characters themselves. Speaking of like the mediums in 4K, this was shot in 8K and downscaled to 4K. So I honestly cannot wait until we get like some form of 8K disc and Blu-ray player and whatever, to then watch that movie maybe in like the highest possible form, because it is a very stunning film, the way it's shot, the way it looks, and it tells this beautiful remote little romance story about love and longing and stuff like that. It also gets, I guess, a bit sad, which is the common thing in all of my favorite films. Like, I kind of do like to be
Cry.
emotionally engaged in a way where I slope towards the side of like, yeah, make
Ewan
me
likes
sad,
crying.
and I love it. I do love crying, but I mean, I'm also an easy crier, so I guess it's like, you know, it's not that hard to get an emotional response out of me. But yeah, that's that. I mean, you saw Portrait of a Lady on Fire as well. What do
did.
you think about the film?
I think it's an excellent film. It's the only one that I can actually comment on.
Yeah,
I gave it
I'm sorry.
4.5 flames out of 5 on Letterboxd.
Yes, the flames.
And I got, I'm not gonna lie, it got an extra half a flame because of the
Yeah.
emojis were changed. So I'll give it that. Letterboxd, you've done a great job on keeping me
Yes.
engaged. The film is excellent. I have to agree. I also want to state that I do watch international films, because I realize you have 3 international films.
I have
in
no US
consideration of
films
what-
technically.
yeah. To say that, obviously, like, international films as in what the
Yeah.
Oscars would consider international films.
Well, I guess the before
I
films
do
would
watch
be
films
US
in-
films, you know, but it's not
Yeah.
set. I got no films that are set in the US.
So for me, I just want to list a bunch of international films that I've watched. Parasite.
Yeah, it's proving something. Yeah.
Yeah, that's about it, guys. So
I watched it dubbed as well, not subbed. What? I'm not reading
I've got the
subtitles.
4K Parasite disc down there. I'm not gonna go get it.
Yeah,
out.
you got
Actually,
crazy. We've
funnily-
seen it
actually-
before.
Actually, no. Wait. I have to show this because this is kind of embarrassing. I've got the Parasite Blu-ray, Parasite Black and White Blu-ray, and the Parasite 4K.
He does
discs.
his watches. It's multiple foreign films. It just happens to be all.
I
the
watch
same film.
multiple foreign films, but they're all the same version of the. They're all the same film, but it's just a
No, one is
different
in black
version of
and
the
white.
film.
It's greatly different.
No, I've got. Okay, I'm gonna prove it. Okay.
Yeah.
Honorable mention. Does Logan count? Logan's not an MCU movie.
He's Australian, so
It's an anime. Does it count?
Princess Mononoke is a great pick. I love you for
Does
that.
that
It's
count?
kind
That's
of
a great- that's a
missing.
great honorable
That's why I wanted to mention Grave of the Fireflies. I think Studio Ghibli is definitely missing from this list, and it was missing from the last thing as well. But we really hold it in high regard, that whole like studio, and especially Princess Mononoke would have been something that I think could have been on either of our lists.
I do. I told you. Look. I've got international films. They're Russian, right?
It's Hans Gruber. He's
Okay, no,
definitely
I'm kidding,
German,
I'm kidding.
probably.
There's an international
Yeah.
film for you.
Cold
guys.
War, yeah, Polish. Pawlowski.
Right? Come on.
Yeah.
Come
Mm-hmm.
on. You want a classic?
That's the good, the bad. What
Bridge
is
on
that?
River Kwai? Classic?
Why do you own that?
Wait, this has just turned
I
into
think-
Lachlan showing off his DVD
It
collection.
is
We should
really-
move on.
Well, the thing is, the purpose of the show today was that people get to know us a bit more and maybe get to know our film taste, which I don't know if I'm super happy about it with what I've selected, because it's definitely skewing in one direction. But yeah, I mean, people get to know you a bit more if you show off your DVDs as well. Then they kind of know what you own. I don't have mine here, but I just basically grab
I left the
whatever
steelbook
looks
out.
interesting on a flea market for a while. So that's kind of how I got into film. I guess I haven't really touched on that, like because it's for you it's Drive, and more recently After Yang. And for me, it was initially, I think, Schindler's List, where I really noticed that for the first time. That's why that's kind of an integral movie for me. To sum up, what have we learned today? I love to cry, love war films, films about love. Lachlan loves those a bit more lo-fi, hi-fi films with not like too big of of stakes, where it's kind of grounded and you can have those themes in it. I definitely would generalize it like that. You definitely connect with those. And
I don't like international films. If it hasn't got Ryan Gosling in it, fucking get rid of it. If it's in black and white, Ewan will like it.
But yeah, I think that's that. On the topic of Ryan Gosling, early next week we'll have our episode out for The Gray Man, which Lachlan will watch because Ryan Gosling's in it. Hey,
It's got
they
Chris
got
Evans
him.
in it. No? Oh shit. Yes, Ryan Gosling. It's an
Better
MCU
but.
movie. Yeah, Ewan won't watch it because it's one Kevin Bacon away from an MCU movie.
What is that? What's one Kevin Bacon?
You don't know the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon? Oh,
I do
gosh.
not. No.
No, we don't have enough time to talk about it during the recording.
Right,
So I can
okay.
explain to you afterwards.
But yeah, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you feel like you know us a little bit better. And if you do, if you don't, regardless, there'll be more content on this page. So go on, head on down and subscribe, and maybe share your Letterboxd top 4 in the comments below. And we'll be back with some reviews soon, and a new episode every week on Monday. Thank you for tuning in, and see you soon.
Do my blue light glasses make me look like a dick?
Not more than usually.
Okay, fuck you, man. I'm stopping the recording. I don't want to talk about this anymore. All right, I'm stopping the recording.